Spanish line, who is chosen by the faculty to represent the student voice today. Following his address, we recognize the scholarship recipients and then our graduates. Mr. Goldman.
Thank you, Professor Gricko. I appreciate the opportunity to be speaking here today. To all of the staff and students here at the Department of World Languages and Literatures, thank you for all of the ways in which you express support for students and the larger PSU community as we navigate the complex world we live in. It has been a very difficult year for many of us. In these last few months, we have faced a global pandemic, and we have had to change how we live our day-to-day lives, facing drastic changes in the infrastructure of education and in our own social interactions. Additionally, the deeply entrenched systems of structural inequality in this country and around the world have come to the forefront of discussion. I would like to acknowledge the stress, the pain, and the fear that, given the events of this year and the last few years, have come to the surface, but I would also like to see this as a sign of hope. People have been speaking and taking action for a long time, and will never cease to speak out as we work towards positive social change. This current movement is a sign that our dedication to our communities is beginning to pay off. In the words of Audre Lorde, it is not difference which immobilizes us, but silence. We live in a historic moment. The struggle for equality and equity has deep roots, and there have been many who have come before us. Yet for us, now it is time to mobilize, to make this a turning point. And despite what has all too often been referred to as these unprecedented times, the truth is, in the face of the challenges we have met this year and throughout our lives, we have persisted, we have not given up, and we have graduated. I can't speak to what has brought everyone here today in their involvement in the World Languages Department. There's a diverse range of students here, and I'm sure that there are as many motivations for studying languages as there are students and professors in this room. But I can speak to my own experience, answering that question that we are so often met with. Why are you studying a foreign language? What are you going to do with that? When I was in school growing up, world language was always a requirement, but one which felt inaccessible to me. Based on the fluctuating quality of my language education in elementary and middle school Spanish, and my failure to approach proficiency, I thought I would never be able to learn an additional language. I was filled with curiosity about other cultures, but how much could I learn if I couldn't speak the language, if I couldn't speak any language other than my mother tongue? It wasn't until I had the immense privilege of studying abroad that I realized, wait, I can speak German, I can understand, and there is so much more of the world to experience when another linguistic repertoire is opened up to you. I ended up majoring in German and minoring in Spanish, and my semester last year in Chile offered even more meaningful immersion and confirmed what I had already known, that the language would lead to lasting friendships and relationships which are still strong today. This transformation of my understanding of language learning unlocked the means to learn so much more deeply about countless more people and cultures. And the more I learned, the more I realized I had to learn. So where am I going with this? To me, language learning, language studies are not merely about developing competence in a foreign language or about reading old literature. Although I have very much enjoyed old literature. Shout out to Kleist's Penthesilea, which had me at the edge of my seat. But to me, it is about communication. To learn another language is to embrace difference, rather than shying away from it. It is to learn about the world and how we fit into it. I study languages and linguistics because I do not only want to teach my language, but learn others. I want to improve access to world perspectives for those who couldn't hear them otherwise. Each and every one of us here has gone through a language learning process, which, in all honesty, is a very vulnerable and intimate experience. We have had to learn to make mistakes. I think that speaks a lot to the power of language to build constructive relationships between different communities, but also to teach us about ourselves. Oh dear. I think my connection just went out. Sorry, it looks like my connection just went out.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Each and every one of us here has gone through a language learning process, which in all honesty is a very vulnerable and intimate experience. We've had to learn to make mistakes. I think that speaks a lot to the power of language to build constructive relationships between different communities, but also to teach us about ourselves, to develop empathy, to focus on compassion. I'm here because, simply put, I think that language is beautiful. And I do not think that I am alone in this. We live in a society which does not value languages, and for us to have chosen to dedicate ourselves in the way that we have demonstrates that we are here to pursue something that is important to us on a deeper level. We strived to learn. We have struggled through pain-scripted conversations in our 101 classes, watched countless movies, and read about philosophy and politics. We have directly applied our language skills to serve our communities through translation, language lessons, and more. Now we have been given the tools to use our voices. We are in a position now that not a lot of people get to occupy. We are educated. My fellow students, we are at this ceremony here today because we had the opportunity to get an education, to devote countless hours to looking at the world more critically, and we took that opportunity. We, the graduating class of 2020, have gained the privilege that comes with a college degree, and this looks different for each of us. I have the honor to have been accepted to join the Peace Corps next year when travel is possible once more, and based on the interesting, thoughtful, and intelligent people I've met during my studies here, I'm sure that you too will find ways to contribute to the world in the ways most meaningful to you. But no matter what direction we take, we are now going into the world with knowledge. Of course, it is important to keep in mind that this system of education, while giving us this privilege, does not mean that we are always right, or that our experience is more valuable than those who have not had this opportunity. We are finished with this part of our educational paths, but we are not done. It is time, as our school's motto has taught us, to let knowledge serve the city. The quote from Audre Lorde at the beginning of this speech comes from a piece entitled The Transformation of Silence into Language and Action. We have transformed our silence into language, and now it is time for action. We are not finished learning, and we never will finish. We are now at a time when it is important to use our voice, but also to listen. We will not be silent, but we shall also let others speak. When I see you, I see hope. I see beauty, empathy, and love. I will let this beauty of language serve as a form of resistance. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Malcolm, for those inspiring words. And I really want to highlight the word beauty. And I'm so glad that you chose that word because our society today often limits the notion of beauty to something that's physical and human, but not in a very humane way all the time. And so I think that finding beauty in language, finding beauty in books, finding beauty in film, in art, in thoughts, in music, finding beauty wherever we can in our pursuits is a wonderful thing. So thank you very much for highlighting that and for a very inspiring speech.
Thank you for having me.
We will now recognize 3 scholarship recipients.